Hey everybody, my name is Ian Lamboy. I'm on the business development team here at Tild. Specifically, I work with the ISOs, agents, payments people of the world for our referral partners. And I'm actually joined here by our founder and CEO, Caleb Avery. Caleb, thanks for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, Ian, really appreciate you taking the time to do this today. Fun fact for those of you that don't know Ian, he is 6'7", and so if you stop by the Tild booth, he is the guy just towering over everyone. But excited to follow up from the live event that we did with James Shepard and answer some of the questions that we didn't have time for during the live event.
All right, so jumping right into it. As you know, like I mentioned, the majority of our referral partners are in the payments world, and they are ISOs, agents, payments consultants, etc. The term PayFac, or maybe just payment facilitation in general, is a very popular term right now, as you know. But it still may be a little bit newer to some of our referral partners. So in your words, how would you describe the difference between the PayFac model, maybe specifically PayFac as a service with Tild, and some of the direct merchant services that a lot of our referral partners are used to in the ISO world?
Sure. Yeah. First, I'll touch on kind of what is a PayFac, and how that differs from the traditional ISO model that I think most of the listeners are more familiar with. And I can talk a little bit more about kind of specifically PayFac as a service and how that differs in terms of the PayFac model and how that differs from the traditional ISO model. One of the key differences that I like to point out are some of the card brand rules and regulations where Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex are the ones that are really setting the bar for what an individual business owner has to go through in order to be able to accept credit cards at their business. And under that traditional ISO model, each small business owner is getting their own merchant account, their own merchant ID. And so they have to go through a relatively thorough vetting process to get that account created. Whereas under the payment facilitator model, which, companies like Stripe, Square, Braintree, PayPal are probably some of the more notable examples of payment facilitators, the PayFac goes through a very extensive vetting process with the banks, the acquirers, the card brands to get registered as what we consider like a master merchant. And so once that PayFac has gone through that extensive vetting process, they're able to create that instant, streamlined digital boarding experience for what are considered sub-merchants underneath their platform. And so that master merchant, sub-merchant relationship really creates a lot of advantages for payment facilitators. And then specifically when you look at PayFac as a service, and what we do here at Tild, I think one of the key differences today for an agent or an ISO, that's listening to this recording, the difference is that when you're out there, selling your traditional, ISO experience, oftentimes, you guys are going direct to the end merchants and signing them up. Whereas in the PayFac as a service model, there's a software company in between. And I think that's one of the key differences that we highlighted on the recording. And I always like to point out, because we have people that come ask us questions like, hey, can I board this, direct merchant, opportunity with Tild? And, not today, stay tuned, got some announcements, coming up. But in the PayFac as a service model, we're allowing ISVs and vertical software companies the ability to take advantage of that payment facilitator model, but they can get set up in a couple of weeks because the software company themselves is not actually becoming that registered PayFac. Tild is providing all of that infrastructure for them.
And I think what's essential in that kind of difference in the model is there's an extra layer. There's not just the merchant and the customer level. There's the customer, the merchant, and then now the software company in that model being different from just direct merchant services, right?
Yep.
So someone asked on the live event, why should an ISO use Tild rather than going directly to TSYS or Pfizer?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is you always have the option. If you want to try to take the deal to, TSYS or First Data or bring in a gateway like, auth.net, like, if you can close that deal, God bless you. But I think for me, between my ISO days and Tild, I was doing a lot of this consulting work for software companies. And I was recommending, an NMI or an authorized.net, and I was helping them negotiate, referral agreements with the big processors. And the reality was that legacy technology coupled with the manual PDF, merchant onboarding process, one was just not the experience, that these software companies were really looking for. And so they weren't all that excited about the solution up front. And then two, the ones that even chose to implement it oftentimes really struggled with the actual go-to-market and convincing the merchants, to sign up for that solution. And so Tilled is offering, modern technology, is offering a great merchant experience, and really for us, the one thing that I always like to highlight is our close rates. And so, one of the number one reasons why ISO and agent partners, bring their deals to Till is because they know we can get the job done. And so, the year 2022, our close rates were 55%. So if you got our sales team in front of a qualified opportunity 55% of the time, we're going to close that deal. And the reality is, if you're an agent or an ISO that's trying to recommend, auth.net plus, First Data or First Data Direct, to an ISV, there's a lot of different, agents and ISOs that that ISV could get that exact same solution from. And so your chances of winning that deal are substantially lower just based on competition alone, setting aside the kind of technology and the merchant experience side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge. Perfect. So another question asked from the live event was regarding a few verticals and whether they would be a good fit for Tilled, specifically healthcare software, legal software, automotive software. In your eyes, what verticals do you see as a good fit for Tilled?
Yeah, absolutely. So the three that you mentioned are fantastic. We've got numerous companies in the healthcare space. That's one of the top verticals at Tilled. If I had to look at some of the top verticals that we service, healthcare is certainly up there. Nonprofits like donation management software is up there. Field services is a really key vertical for Tilled. We see a lot in the property management space, and then increasingly we're seeing more and more B2B opportunities like ERP platforms, accounts receivable automation platforms. And then we work with a couple of e-commerce shopping cart providers as well. And so I think we have the ability to really service a very diverse group of verticals. The key kind of commonality is that they're all really low risk. So that's the specialty for Tilled is low risk vertical software. And so, if you can name a vertical that's low risk, there's a good chance that we can service it. We've got, music studio software, propane delivery software. I mean, we've kind of run the gambit of different verticals that we can operate in, but those that I mentioned are probably the top ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's amazing how there's a million different verticals for everything, but as long as they're in that low to medium risk processing category, probably a pretty good fit for Tilled.
Yep.
Excellent. So regarding pricing, this is a common question that comes up in our conversations as well. So does the ISV have to offer a fixed rate similar to Stripe per se, or can they compete with interchange cost plus pricing? How does that typically work in the relationship with Tilled in the ISV setting pricing?
Yeah. So the great thing at Till is that we really put the ISV in control. And so they're really guiding that pricing experience for their customers. And we give them full flexibility. So if flat rate pricing makes the most sense, for their business or their industry, they have the opportunity to set up flat rate pricing for their merchants. If they need the opportunity to set up interchange plus pricing, we can support that model as well. And what's great is that we have tools available so that the ISVs can actually configure per merchant pricing. And so a lot of our ISVs have a default flat rate price that they offer if you're just signing up through the website, but as they're negotiating, larger deals or multi-location deals or something like that, they can go into the Tilled software or even via the API and create, unique individual interchange plus pricing on a per merchant basis. So really providing a ton of flexibility for our partners to be able to price, their customers in a way that makes sense for their business and allow them to be really competitive, in whatever vertical they're serving.
So this could be a little bit of a loaded question, but from a very high level, what does the overall underwriting process look like for the ISV and the merchants they board?
Yeah. So, the way that we think about, the underwriting process at Till, there's a couple different steps. Initially, we do, relatively detailed underwrite on the ISV or the software platform, that you're bringing to Tilled. And typically that process takes like 1 to 3 weeks. On average, we continue to improve, that timeline, month over month. But for us, the goal of that initial ISV underwriting process is really to enable us to have a very streamlined experience for the actual sub merchants that we're boarding onto the platform. And so with the ISVs, we're trying to understand mostly like who are the sub merchants that they're going to be bringing onto the platform, what industries, so what MCC codes, what's the average ticket, what's the high ticket, what's the average processing volume per merchant, is it card present, is it card not present? If they have processing history, we might be looking at the chargeback ratios or things like that to really understand kind of historically, how has it gone for them processing payments. But the goal of that, one, we're weeding out bad actors, which happens occasionally, but the primary goal is really to allow us to get comfortable with creating this streamlined experience for the sub merchants, which is really everybody's goal. We want to make it, as simple and frictionless as possible for the actual merchants to come sign up, with Tilt. And so we've created, a fully digital, fully automated experience for the actual merchants to onboard onto Tilt. And so there's two different ways that we allow merchants to sign up with Tilt. You can have a fully API, experience, or you can use our hosted white label onboarding tool. But either way, we fully automated the actual underwriting process for the merchants themselves. And so, 90 seconds later, after they submit the application, they could be fully approved and start processing, transactions on Tilt. And then there's obviously a lot of ongoing, risk monitoring that takes place after the fact. But the ISV underwriting process, which is a bit more manual, kind of 1 to 3 week process, and then the merchant underwriting process, where our goal is to instantly approve or near instant approval for as many of those merchants as possible.
Awesome. A common question we get as well is, how do you see Tilt being different from Stripe Connect? Obviously a very similar model, but if you could explain some of the differences, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, who's Stripe? I'm not familiar with it.
Never heard of them, right?
So yeah, never heard of them. I think that's probably the most common question that I get. I think Stripe is obviously the kind of 800-pound gorilla in the space. And so we're probably converting, I don't know, 35-40% of our customers over, from Stripe Connect. So definitely something that we're familiar with. When I think about kind of the top differences between Tilt and Stripe Connect, I think pricing is typically the kind of first one that always jumps out to folks. It's often the kind of loudest thing that people complain about, with Stripe, where they're not happy with their 2.9% and 30 cents, or 2.8% and 25 cents. And so obviously we're offering much more competitive pricing than Stripe, which creates the revenue opportunity for the software platform. But really, I don't think that price alone is the reason why people are moving off of Stripe, and necessarily the reason why people get all that excited about Tilt. I think outside of pricing, branding is certainly another big concern for the software companies, where they get really excited with the turnkey white label tools that are available at Tilt, where they're not having to go build out a custom integration to really put their brand front and center in the experience to their customers. They upload a logo, they pick their primary and secondary color, they create their custom subdomain, and they're up and running. They're fully white labeled on the Tilt solution, and that's a huge value add. Then the other two pieces that I would highlight would be the card present solution, where Stripe Terminal tends to be a pretty big point of frustration for a lot of the software companies that they speak with, where it just isn't the right solution for a lot of verticals and a lot of applications. And we've got a couple different solutions, available that have been of interest to platforms. And then really, from a service and support perspective, I think that's really where we blow Stripe out of the water. Stripe is really fantastic for kind of, the early startups, couple developers that want to get up and running quickly. But as you start to want to scale your business, you're just not going to get the level of resources and involvement from someone like a Stripe that you would get with Tilt, where oftentimes we're working with partners on marketing campaigns, designing emails, landing pages, and then from a sales support perspective, analyzing statements. If you want us to talk to the merchants and help you convert them, we're happy to do that. And so we really lean in with our partners far beyond kind of technical support and merchant support, and really work with them to help them scale their business. And for the stage that a lot of the software companies are at when they come to Tilt, that can be just such a major advantage, on top of the branding, on top of the revenue, on top of the terminal options.
Perfect, Caleb. I think that's all the questions that we have time for today, but really appreciate you sitting down and chatting with me on some of these follow-ups that we couldn't get to on the live event.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to answer some of the questions that we didn't have time for in the live event.
Excellent. All right. Thanks so much.